Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Writing Tip of the Week. My name is Julie Stigmeyer, and I work with the GSCP in writing support. Today, we're going to talk about semicolons, a continuation of last week. So this is when you shouldn't use them. As I mentioned last week, a semicolon has two functions. It can separate equal and complete clauses, which includes putting words like however, for example, or therefore in the middle of the sentence. You'd put that semicolon right before it. And they can separate items in a list, especially a list with commas. But there are times you can't use them, and here are a couple of examples. First, you can't use them between a clause and a phrase. So since I said they have to be equal and complete sentences. And here we have an example where Dawn went jogging one afternoon. That's fine, that's a complete sentence. We have a subject and a verb and an object. But then never returning is not a complete sentence. So instead we should put a comma there. And this one, Lucy has 3 topics of conversation. That's fine on its own, subject, verb, object. But her courses, career, and travels, that's not a complete sentence. We would need a verb to make that a complete sentence. So instead, you can use a colon here. Next, you can't use semicolons between dependent and independent clauses. So if the report is true is a dependent clause. You can't just say if the report is true because of this little word if. That makes it dependent on this clause. So instead, you should use a comma. And same here, when we heard about the final decision, which really surprised us. We couldn't just have which really surprised us on its own. Let's practice. I went to the grocery store today. I bought a ton of fruit. Is this right or wrong? This is correct. We have 2 equal and independent clauses. How about this one? We took a detour, the reason being that the bridge was under construction. This one's incorrect because the reason being that the bridge was under construction is a verb phrase. It's I guess a relative clause that is not a complete sentence. But instead, we can just add a comma and that works. That's all for this week's writing tip. Join me next week as we explore more writing tips and ideas. And until then, please get in touch for writing support, and happy writing.